Over the past 18 months, property tax assessments have quietly surged across multiple American states. While homeowners were focused on mortgage rates and home prices, local governments have been recalculating property values, and the bills are starting to arrive. If you own property in certain states, the numbers on your next tax statement might come as a shock. Today, we're breaking down which states are seeing the steepest increases, why this is happening now, and what it means for your financial future. To understand what's happening, we need to look at the bigger picture. Between 2020 and 2023, U.S. home values increased dramatically, in some markets by more than 40%. Property taxes are based on assessed values, and those assessments are now catching up to market reality. At the same time, municipalities are facing budget pressures, infrastructure costs are rising, public services need funding, and many local governments depend heavily on property taxes to balance their books. Data from the Lincoln Institute shows that property tax revenue grew by over 7% nationally in 2023 alone, the fastest pace in more than a decade. But that growth isn't distributed evenly. Some states are experiencing much sharper increases than others.
Let's start with Texas. The state famously has no income tax, which has attracted millions of new residents over the past few years. But that revenue has to come from somewhere, and it comes primarily from property taxes. In cities like Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio, home values have climbed aggressively. A home purchased for $300,000 in 2020 might now be assessed at $450,000 or more. The result? Property tax bills have increased by 30 to 50% in some neighborhoods, even without any change in the tax rate itself. Texas also has homestead exemptions and caps on assessed value increases for primary residences, but those protections don't apply to second homes or investment properties. And for new buyers, there's no cap at all. They're immediately taxed on the full current assessment. Here's a real scenario. A couple moved to a suburb outside Houston in 2021, buying a home for $375,000. Their initial property tax bill was around $7,500 annually. 2 years later, after reassessment, that bill jumped to $11,000. They didn't change anything about the house. The market changed around them. Florida presents a different dynamic. Home values have risen sharply, particularly in coastal counties. But property taxes here are compounded by something else, skyrocketing homeowners' insurance premiums. While property tax rates in Florida are moderate compared to states like New Jersey or Illinois, the combination of higher assessments and insurance costs is squeezing household budgets. In Miami-Dade and Broward counties, some homeowners are seeing their total annual housing costs increase by 15 to 20% year over year, even with a fixed-rate mortgage. Florida's Save Our Homes Amendment does cap assessment increases at 3% annually for primary residences. But again, new buyers don't benefit from that protection. If you buy a home today, you're taxed on its full market value immediately. Consider this. A retiree who's lived in a Tampa home for 15 years pays property taxes based on a heavily capped assessment. But if they sell and downsize to a smaller condo nearby, their tax bill on the new property could actually be higher despite the home being worth less because the assessment resets to current market value.
Now let's talk about states with structurally high property taxes, New Jersey and Illinois. New Jersey consistently ranks as the state with the highest property taxes in the nation. The average effective rate is over 2%, meaning a home worth $500,000 generates around $10,000 to $12,000 in annual property taxes. Recent reassessments in counties like Bergen, Essex, and Morris have pushed some bills even higher. Illinois, particularly in the Chicago metro area, faces similar pressures. Cook County has been conducting reassessments, and many homeowners have seen double-digit percentage increases in their tax bills. The state also carries significant pension obligations, and local governments are under pressure to fund those commitments, often through property tax levies. A homeowner in suburban Chicago recently shared that their bill increased from $8,500 to over $10,000 in a single year following a countywide reassessment.
The home hadn't been renovated, the neighborhood hadn't changed dramatically, but the assessed value was adjusted upward to reflect recent comparable sales. California operates under a unique system thanks to Proposition 13, passed in 1978. Property taxes are capped at 1% of assessed value, and assessments can only increase by a maximum of 2% per year unless the property is sold. This creates dramatic disparities. A longtime homeowner in Los Angeles might pay $4,000 annually on a home worth $1.2 million because their assessment is based on a purchase price from decades ago. Meanwhile, a new buyer purchasing a similar home next door could pay $15,000 or more annually because their assessment reflects current market value. Recent legislation has allowed some homeowners over 55 to transfer their tax base when moving within the state, but the system still heavily favors long-term ownership. For younger buyers, or those entering the market now, the property tax burden is significantly higher relative to previous generations.
The Sun Belt migration has reshaped markets in Arizona and Nevada. Both states have seen rapid population growth and corresponding home price appreciation. In Phoenix, Maricopa County has been reassessing properties, and many homeowners have seen their tax bills climb by 20 to 35% over 2 years. Arizona does limit assessment increases to 5% annually for primary residences, but new construction and recent purchases aren't protected. Nevada's story is similar. Clark County, home to Las Vegas, has experienced significant valuation increases. While Nevada's property tax rates are relatively moderate, the speed of appreciation has caught many residents off guard. An investor who bought a rental property in Scottsdale in 2019 recently saw the assessed value jump from $320,000 to $470,000. The property tax bill went from roughly $3,200 to over $4,700, a nearly 50% increase. One common thread across many of these states is remote work migration. Between 2020 and 2023, millions of Americans moved, often to states with lower income taxes or perceived lower costs of living. But that migration drove up home prices and subsequently property tax assessments. States like Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia have also experienced this. While their tax rates remain lower than the Northeast, the rate of assessment growth has been steep in metro areas like Nashville, Raleigh, and Atlanta.
It's important to note that not every homeowner in these states is experiencing dramatic increases. Assessment cycles vary by county. Some jurisdictions have been more conservative in their revaluations. And certain exemptions, like homestead protections, senior freezes, or veteran benefits, can significantly reduce exposure. Additionally, some states and municipalities have proposed or enacted relief measures. Texas, for example, has debated increasing homestead exemptions. Illinois has offered one-time rebates in certain counties. These don't eliminate the increases, but they can soften the impact. Real estate markets are also not monolithic. Within a single state, you might find one county seeing sharp increases while another remains stable. Location, local budget needs, and housing supply all play a role. So where does this leave us? Property taxes are often called the hidden cost of homeownership, but they're becoming harder to ignore. For many Americans, the combination of higher assessments, rising insurance, and increased maintenance costs is reshaping the true cost of owning a home. If you're a current homeowner, this might be the time to review your assessment, understand your local appeal process, and budget accordingly. If you're thinking about buying, it's worth calculating not just the mortgage payment, but the full annual tax burden based on current market values. And if you're considering a move to one of these high-growth states, remember, a lower income tax rate doesn't always mean a lower overall tax bill. What's your experience been? Have you seen a significant jump in your property taxes recently? Are you in one of these states or somewhere else entirely? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how this is playing out in your area.